A big reason I started this channel is so many toy sites on YouTube are either dedicated to the positive, reviewing toys and giving information, and kind of the negative, giving their opinions disguised as facts and making everyone feel really bad about what we do. So I wanted to start this channel to explain the facts of toy making. And the number one thing I get asked over and over again is the cost of action figures. And there's definitely some confusion over different sort of parts of the process and when different costs hit. Which costs are one-time costs and which costs are ongoing costs. So I thought I'd make a quick video here to tie it all together. So the first thing about action figure production is, well, anything made of plastic is made in a plastic injection molding machine. Now, whether you make this machine at home in your garage or you actually buy a professional one, they're large machines because, well, they take up a lot of space. That's what things that take up a lot of space are. They're large. See how it works together? And these machines need even larger tools or molds, which are what form the plastic object you're making, whether it's a bowl or an action figure. They're very large, they're made of metal because they have to withstand plastic being injected into them tens, if not hundreds of thousands of times. So it needs to be made of a very durable material. That's why tooling costs about $100,000, at least for a fully tooled 6-inch action figure with no shared parts. You could kind of think of a tool as those old Play-Doh, boy, slip of the tongue there, Play-Doh molds that we had as kids, right? And you'd close it and out would pop a thing of Play-Doh. So once you own the tool to make something out of plastic, you're going to want to maximize that tool. And that's why you see a lot of repaints offered, both for kids and collectors, because the tooling is a one-time cost, but it's a very high cost. If you're going to shell out $100,000 in order to have a metal mold that will produce this plastic figurine, well, you want your money's worth. It's one of the reasons that Lego is such a high-margin company, because they don't have to tool that much. Their same brick can be used over and over again in lots of different Lego sets, so it's not a tooling-intensive toy line. All right, I'm kind of getting away from myself. Let's go back to the original point of when different costs hit the toy making process. So, tooling aside, the first thing when a toy is being designed is it has a B-sheet. A B-sheet is a piece of paper. It's named actually after paper type B from back in the 60s. They had A, B, C, D, and E, and B was what toy designs went on. Now, a B-sheet is also usually going to have a visual showing new parts. Like I said, a fully tooled action figure is $100,000. But if you can use a body buck, and just have different parts, it's less. So obviously the cost of creating a B-sheet and printing is minimal, but you have to pay for salaries, obviously, of both your employers, and there's licensors involved, so there's, business costs, or rather costs of doing business, shall we say. But the actual real costs come when you start sculpting. So the sculpt of an action figure, and it can be done by hand, it can be done by computer, lots of different ways. And you're going to spend between a couple $100 to a couple thousand to maybe a couple, $10,000, $20,000 on a sculpt, depending on the sculptor and the artist. But a sculpt costing more than maybe $3,000 to $5,000 is a little bit of an outlier. The most expensive part is usually what's called the portrait, which is the face, because you want a sculptor that can exactly capture an actor's face. So that tends to be the more expensive part. But yeah, I would say, again, between $3,000 and $5,000 per sculpt is kind of in the ballpark. So what you're getting from a sculptor is this. It's a resin production of a future potential toy. It looks like an action figure, but it's not articulated like an action figure. It's held together by pins. So these are usually the toys you see at conventions or New York Toy Fair, where companies are showing off the next few months' worth of figures, but what they're usually showing are the sculpt, because the sculpt only costs a couple $1,000s to make, and it's held together by pins. It doesn't have to articulate, it's not made of plastic, it doesn't have to be durable for play, it just has to look good in a display case. Now, the toy engineer comes and figures out how to translate that non-articulated statue that looks like a toy into an actual articulated toy by adding joints, by adding all of the mechanisms, all of the parts that are going to allow the toy to actually function like a toy, whether that's articulate or blast out an action feature, whatever that is, that's where the toy engineer comes in. Now, we're finally getting to the part where we're going to invest in the tooling. But before we do so, we have to know that we have a sale, which means we either have a guaranteed subscriber or pre-buy, or we have a big check from a major retailer. Either one, that is when tooling gets greenlit, because that's the most expensive part. And as I noted, it's a one-time cost. So you're spending $100,000 to tool your toy, whatever it is, doll, vehicle, action figure, and it's sort of, I mean, not literally by business definition, but think of it as a sunk cost. It's a one-time thing you're paying, but now you own this tool forever, or until it wears out. So you could make 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 of the same object once you've paid for this tool. And it's that money you're going to shell out, which is a capital expense. So let's get down to the actual individual figure now. So if you're buying, say, a 6-inch action figure at market, and I know the prices are a little bit blurry, but what it's made out of is going to be plastic and paint. Maybe there's a little paper in there, like some of those Ghostbuster figures have, or that J. Jonah Jameson figure came with a piece of paper accessory. But otherwise, let's assume that this toy costs $20 at retail. So a good rule of thumb, and this isn't for every toy, but about 25% of what you pay at retail is what it costs to actually make that toy. Meaning, $5 for a $20 figure. And this is approximate. There are ones that cost more, and some cost less. It's how margin works. But you're basically getting $5 worth, or will cost $5 worth of product, and about 80% of that cost is plastic, 20% is paint, although you have to take 10% off the top to pay for the packaging, because it's very important that toys actually look good on shelf and entice people to buy them. I worked in packaging for 2 years, and we spent a lot of time talking about this, because if you don't have the packaging that not only looks good, it's going to be harder for the gift buyer to, well, want to walk away with it. Not to mention the packaging has to be designed to wrap easily, because most toys go to kids, and well, if you don't get the packaging right, it could come and bite you in the neck. I hope this video tied up some loose ends about when the different costs of making an action figure actually hit production, and how those costs are broken up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Share this video. It helps the channel a ton. Thanks for watching.